Cyber Innovations in the Private Sector highlights case studies and the latest industry trends from private vendors. Explore innovative solutions, success stories, and exclusive insights from industry leaders. Stay ahead with the cutting-edge developments driving the industry forward.
Today on CyberSecTV, we speak with John Mutunga, founder of Cyberpro Africa, about cybersecurity and digital resilience across Africa.
Hi everyone, my name is John Mutunga. I am the CEO and founder of Cyberpro Africa. Cyberpro Africa is cybersecurity capacity building and digital resilience initiative focused on strengthening Africa's cybersecurity ecosystem through training, research and development, innovation, and industry collaboration. So we only have one mission, which is to develop the next generation cybersecurity professionals while helping organizations and governments strengthening their cyber defenses. So we basically work in three pillars: the cybersecurity skills development, cyber ecosystem development, and digital resilience research and innovation. The cybersecurity landscape in Africa is that as a continent, we are experiencing a very rapid digital transformation, driven, of course, by fintech innovation. As we all know, Cyberpro Africa is headquartered in Kenya, and in fact, one of the leading countries in the world when it comes to mobile money or financial transactions. So mobile technology, fintech innovation, e-government services, even in Kenya. Now, while this transformation is creating enormous economic value and opportunity, it's of course also expanding attack surface areas for cyber criminals. And some of the major challenges organizations are facing, there is a very big shortage of cybersecurity skilled professionals. And I think the effect is not just in Africa or Kenya, but even in the whole world. We've got limited cybersecurity awareness among employees and staffs in different organizations. The legacy systems and security architectures, increasing ransomware and financial security architectures issues, limited investment in cybersecurity compared to digital growth. So another challenge that many organizations, they treat cybersecurity as an IT issue, which is a big issue. It is not an issue that is totally regarded as information technology, but it's a strategic business risk. So to address these issues, I would say that organizations should treat cybersecurity as a strategic business risk. And of course, to always advocate for proactive cyber resilience strategies. The importance of cybersecurity in digital innovation and economic development, especially in Kenya. I'm looking at when individuals, organizations, institutions and businesses, and even government trust that digital systems are secure, then we have to be more willing to adopt technologies such as digital banking, cloud computing, e-government platforms, e-commerce. Without cybersecurity, really digital transformation becomes extremely risky, because digital transformation basically revolves around data being at the center of all these different components. And so cybersecurity basically is just how to protect the data at rest and in transit. So cybersecurity should always be at the center of it all. It shouldn't be an afterthought. Now we have completed the infrastructure and the strategy. So what security are we putting in place? It should be from the beginning throughout the end, and most importantly at the center of it. See, a very good example is like in fintech or even healthcare or even telecommunications. Cyber incidents can disrupt critical services, damage public trust, cause very huge significant financial losses. And so strong cybersecurity will enable different organizations to innovate, confidentiality, the integrity of data, the availability of data, protecting data, and of course, maintaining consistent operational continuity. The way I see artificial intelligence transforming cybersecurity in Africa, I'm looking at it in two ways. First, it's helping defenders detect and respond to threats faster. Of course, using machine learning, basically identification of patterns in steroids. So AI can be able to analyze massive volumes of data to identify unusual patterns, detect anomalies, and even automate incident response. The other way I'm looking at it is that, unfortunately, artificial intelligence also brings attackers, increase the complexity of attack by cyber criminals. And of course, we are talking about AI-generated phishing campaigns, which are now way smarter. Initially we used to be told, look at the email if we have any grammatical issues or errors. But now AI is coming to, undo all that. And therefore, AI-generated phishing campaigns become a very critical issue because it's basically attacking the first line of defense, which is the human beings. You're looking at automated vulnerability discovery, unlike the traditional one, whereby basically it was about looking at the 0 days vulnerability, but nowadays using artificial intelligence you can automate vulnerability discovery, and also using deepfake based social engineering so as to be able to sound and feel more convincing. So for Africa, artificial intelligence represents a major opportunity. And so organizations can leverage artificial intelligence to compensate for the shortage of cybersecurity professionals. Of course, by automating threat detection, analyzing risks, and security monitoring. And of course, not to forget that we can as well use artificial intelligence to ensure business continuity and operational continuity. However, it's important to invest in artificial intelligence governance, ethical frameworks, and AI security skills to just ensure that technologies are used appropriately and responsibly. Cybersecurity skills gap in Africa is very significant and of course growing. So globally, when I look at it, there are millions of unfilled cybersecurity positions. And Africa is particularly affected because demand of digital services is growing faster than the supply of skilled professionals. So many different organizations do struggle to find experts in areas such as, digital forensics, security architecture, cyber threat intelligence, CTI, and even incident response, just to mention but a few. So addressing the challenges require a long-term investment in education and developing skills. I usually call it KSA, the knowledge, skills, and attitude, but it is a long-term investment that should be taken into account. We need to be able to introduce cybersecurity courses, earlier in schools, in kindergarten, in lower, level of education, and even strengthen university programs. Support professional certifications and create more hands-on training opportunities. And of course, cyber labs, because at the end of the day, cybersecurity is just about two things, knowledge and skills. You can't be having skills without knowledge, because with knowledge you can be able to improve on the skills. Initiatives like Cyber Week Africa and Cyberpro Africa as a company with training programs aim to bridge these particular gap, cybersecurity skills gap, by preparing professionals with practical skills aligned with industry needs. Cybersecurity is not an individual or a certain department responsibility. Rather, it is a shared responsibility, and no single organization or government can solve it alone. Now, public-private collaboration is essential because critical infrastructure, cloud services, fintechs, telecoms are operated by private companies. And governments play a very important role in establishing national SATs, promoting cybersecurity awareness, developing cybersecurity policies and regulation. But then when you look at the private sector, private institutions play roles of innovation, operational security capabilities, technical expertise. Now, with these sectors' collaboration, it's very effective. They can be able to share threat intelligence, which is very important, coordinate responses to cyber security incidents or even attacks, and even develop stronger national cybersecurity strategies. When it comes to cybersecurity and critical infrastructure or the essential services that are required in our day-to-day operations, to start with, I'm thinking of healthcare systems. Those particular systems are increasingly delving into the digital space. And what actually that means is that they are becoming more vulnerable to cyber attacks. So protecting these critical infrastructure systems requires several key measures. I usually call it the 5-point rule. Adopting strong cybersecurity frameworks, such as the ISMS, that is the ISO 27001, or the NIST framework. Having cyber incident response planning and simulation exercises. And that is all the way from management through the technical team to the standard users. And then, of course, having a 24/7, 360 security monitoring. And that is through SIM, and SOC capabilities. So government must always ensure that critical infrastructures operators comply with several cybersecurity frameworks and standards. And of course, something that is very more important is share information, threat intelligence, sharing more information about emerging threats. I'm thinking and looking at Africa being the next step, the next big thing globally. Because of the uniqueness, there is a unique opportunity to become a major player in the global cybersecurity ecosystem as Africa, because the continent has a very young tech-savvy population and rapidly growing digital economies. So with the right investments, Africa can become a hub for security innovations, threat intelligence research, managed security services, and of course cybersecurity talent. However, achieving such requires strong regional collaboration and of course alignment with global cybersecurity standards. So Africa should also play a more active role in international cyber policy discussions. I'm glad even Kenya as a country, what we're doing is, attending global conferences, exchanging ideas or ideologies on what the other countries are doing and how we can prepare ourselves as Kenya and Africa for the future. And of course, when we are talking about global cyber defense initiative, Africa should also really play an active role in that. When it comes to cybersecurity awareness, I look at cybersecurity from two angles. It is majorly composed of human factor and the technical factor. And the most critical factor in the cybersecurity ecosystem is the human factor. So technology alone cannot solve cybersecurity problems. I know engineers and researchers are doing good work in technology, that is infrastructure in terms of keeping out the bad guys or cyber criminals. But human behavior remains one of the largest vulnerabilities in any organization and any setup. So many cyber attacks will always begin with simple tactics such as phishing emails. An employee just clicking on a link that they have won an iPhone 17 Pro Max, or they have won some money for something they didn't even participate in. Social engineering kind of content that people post online and the kind of data that we post online. Talking about weak passwords. So this is why cybersecurity awareness is critical, because of the human factor, the human element, being one of the largest vulnerabilities for any organization. So organizations must continuously train their employees to be able to recognize threats and practice good cyber hygiene, because as we all know, the humans are the first line of defense. So when everyone and people understand cybersecurity risks and their role in protecting digital assets, then organizations can significantly be more resilient. Cyberpro is headquartered in Kenya, Nairobi, but we are strong believers of collaboration and partnerships, because we believe that when we come together, we can be able to achieve a lot of things. For cyber defenders, and the good guys only have to be lucky. The good guys have to be lucky all the time. If we are talking about a probability of out of 100, then we have to be lucky 100 times. But for the cyber criminals, they only have to be lucky 1 out of 100. They're still talking about the 100 probability. So we always have to look for a way to collaborate, to partner, and I think that is the only way through which we can be able to protect our digital infrastructure services. Now, cybercrime is projected to cost the global economy over $10 trillion annually. So Africa is becoming more increasingly an attractive target because of rapid digital growth. So that is something that can be able to trigger more collaboration, more innovation, and building stronger cybersecurity ecosystem. Strengthening cybersecurity in Africa requires just 3 things: strategic investment, education, and collaboration.